to make it understandable. Tonight we have some of the following nekudas that we will be discussing. Number one, because we are now within the month less than Shloshim Yom Kodem L'Chag Purim, we're going to have a discussion on how to make Purim more meaningful for you spiritually. You can't just come into Purim and expect to understand it, to enjoy it, and to really appreciate it. Yes, you can have a good time, you can drink, you can get drunk, you can get dressed up, you can sing, you can carouse, but this is not what Purim is really about. So tonight, we're going to spend a certain amount of time, as we will hopefully each and every week, until Purim, and I guarantee you, in Yirtzeh Hashem, that if you pay attention and listen to what the Gedolim of yesteryear, going back to Doris, had to say about the holiness of Purim and how to prepare for Purim, I assure you, you will have one of the most spiritually uplifting, if not the most spiritually uplifting Purims of your life, and it will have a profound effect on your spirituality throughout the entire year. In addition to that, we're going to quickly go through some of the things on the news, some of the things happening with Trump, some of the things happening with the electoral process, this Eliezer Berlin's arrest in Eretz Yisrael, and what that means to us. We're going to have a guest who's going to give us an update on Giyus Banais and the further decharedization through academia that's taking place now, shockingly, in Eretz Yisrael. And a lot more. We're going to have a little bit of a discussion on open orthodoxy and the latest scandal of a TV program that airs on the internet that is ostensibly quote-unquote kosher, albeit modern orthodox. Subayu was introduced a Mishkav Zachar character to try to break down the defenses and the natural feeling of being repelled by something that the Torah tells us is a capital offense and brings a model to the world.
Thank you very much.
That and much more. Now, perhaps you will listen to the following, which is a prayer given a number of years ago by the former head of Chovevei Torah, the Avi Weiss-sponsored open Orthodox school that is doing so much damage to Klal Yisrael. And here's a prayer from the former head, who is now in Detroit, being Matam in Detroit, trying to spread his tumah, Usher Lopatin, as he gives a prayer for the success of the hashchasa that brought a mabel to the world. It's important that you should hear this, because a lot of us are in our own little ghetto without walls, our own little cocoon, and we don't realize the tremendous anti-kedusha, the tremendous chil Hashem that is spreading. And we'll discuss a little bit about the boundaries between open orthodoxy and modern orthodoxy. So as I get settled into the studio, please listen to this quote-unquote prayer and plots.
And I'd like to introduce Rabbi Mishu, because he keeps standing. He gives the prayer.
And I just want to thank the organizers for having kosher food. This is an equality breakfast, so I felt really equal. Thank you. Ribono Shalom, Master of the Universe, you instructed us in your wisdom and your understanding in the Torah and the book of Genesis, Lo Tov Heyot Adam Levado. It is not good and is not right for a human being to have to live a life alone. God, in your mercy, you told us we have to establish a society and a community in a way that allows for a person to find a life partner, to live a life of companionship and love with equality and without discrimination. So God, please bless our public servants to find that life filled with love for themselves, and to be able to work hard to make sure that our state and our community lives up to God's merciful and just standards, to make sure that everyone has a right to seek out that life partner, and to live and love together in full rights with that person. Lo tov heyot hadam levado. Every person has a right to togetherness and a life filled with love. A life of love blessed by God, our state, and our society. Amen.
So my Rabbi say, there you have it. There you have it. You wouldn't believe who would dream. A guy comes on with a yarmulke, claims to be Orthodox, claims to be the head of a quote-unquote yeshiva that gives smichas to other quote-unquote rabbis. And you heard he's saying a prayer that there should be same-gender marriage, which brought a marvel to the world. Olam hafach re'isi. Now, please hold on to your seatbelts. The thing that I'm going to say now, which is a theme in this program, the reason you're listening to this program, Rabbi Say, whether you realize it or not, the reason you're listening to this program is not for entertainment. 90% of the programs on the radio, very, very few are really Torah content. Hashkafa content, even less. The reason you're listening to this radio program, the reason that Mamish, I'm doing this at a significant cost with no help, kemat at all, from any of the tzibur, where there are thousands of listeners, and I plead and beg that people should help me out to sponsor this program. Not chas v'shalom I should see a profit. Help me defray part of the expenses. It doesn't happen. And part of the reason, hashkafically, I believe it doesn't happen is because this is my nisayon, that I have to go until the bitter end, until I've tapped out every credit card. But the reason that you, the listener, are listening to this program, it's not for the purpose of entertainment. Entertainment, you can hear the tremendous, scintillating, intellectually stimulating, humorous, musical, whatever programs on the Talkline Communication Network. You could be yisro with entertainment. You're listening to this program for educational purposes, to learn, to think along the lines of Gedolei Yisrael of yesteryear, like Rav Avigdor Miller, the Kashav Rav, the Debretziner Rav, the Sklener Rav, the Shambitziana Balacha, who I had shimush from, and that there's a sacred duty to convey this to the next door. To learn, to see how to look through things from the spectacles, from the glasses, from the opticals of a true, uncompromising Torah hashkafa. Now, you know, us in the Haredi community, we have developed a smugness which we absolutely are not licensed to have kihuzeh. Au contraire, not only shouldn't we have a smugness, and when was the last time you heard a Rosh Yeshiva, a Rebbe, a Mashpia, anybody telling you this? Not only shouldn't we have a smugness, au contraire, on the contrary, we should be tremendously broken, zerbrochen, for at least two reasons. One is the chilul Hashem of what's going on, the tremendous chilul Hashem, meaning, Reb Chaim Volozhiner, I think, says that one of the kanvanos in Shema Koleinu is the tsar of the Shkinta Begalusa, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in Golus, Kaviyachol, because we are in Golus. And Imay Anochi B'tzara. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak, we don't understand, this is way above our pay grade, but on a certain level, as the Torah says in the parasha that we just read last week, Ein Hashem, or it's in Kiseitze, no, it's in this last week's, Ein HaKisei Sholem, Ve'ein Hashem Sholem. There is a lack, the way Hashem constructed things, until Amalek is erased. So therefore, one reason we should be tzibrochen when we see these kinds of chilul Hashems that are made constantly by a whole cadre of these people. So that alone, how many of us spend any time, if we read an article by Mrs. Debbie Meinman in the Yated that will point out the problems and the misdeeds of the Open Orthodox crowd, Does anybody, do any of us, I include myself, do we krechs? Do we feel broken? Do we feel embarrassed for Hashem? Do we feel that we have to compensate by going to the other extreme, by standing up with zealotry for what's right to the whole world and to our fellow Jews who are being more and more sucked in by this? I think most of us don't. And are we instructed or informed anywhere? No. Nobody's instructing or informing us. There are no tanesim, there are no half-a-day tanesim, there are no kenusim. Olam kamin hagay nohug. Okay? So for that alone, we should feel broken. Now comes the deep think. And it's really not deep. But when you have 90 or so % of your hashkafic brain tied behind your back just to make it understand, so it comes out that statistically what I'm about to say is very deep. It's not deep at all. Here's the deal. Why is Lopatin able to do what he's doing? Why is this Satmar renegade Yisroel Katz, who goes to the Mishkav Zocha parades and poses with the lesbians and poses with the lesbian from the Orthodox quote-unquote organization Eshel, Miriam Kabakov, or whatever her name is, and she tweets it out or sends it out. Why is these people empowered to do? There's a cause and effect here. And the answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The winds of the last 50 years. This year, the Mushchasim celebrated a half a century since what they call Stonewall. Stonewall was a bar where they would collect and gather and fraternize in Greenwich Village, and the police would come in and raid it because it was against the law, Mishkav Zocher and all this kind of stuff. And finally, they had enough, and they revolted for several days or whatever it was. And after that, the politicians took notice that, hey, the winds are shifting. They used strategies, and that started the Mishkav Zocher agenda. Now, Levin, what are you hacking us with Mishkav Zocher? What are you hacking us? No, I shouldn't talk about it because we don't have molestations going on where thousands have been victimized. We don't have that. We don't have problems where in England, they're going out of their minds, they're forcing it into the schools, and they're trying to do that in other places. And Gary Sher, the Passaic guy from New Jersey, the state senator, supports it. We don't have a problem here. Oxen, we don't have a problem here. We don't have a drag queen hour in Crown Heights where I was there to protest with a handful of people, and we saw a little Yiddish boy of 5 years old with stitches hanging out being taken by his nanny into that thing, while in upstate New York there was a victory somewhere in Rochester somewhere that the Gentiles stood up and they said Ad Khan, and they got this thing canceled, which makes a kitrug on us. So what's the deal? The deal is that if we don't care and we don't show sensitivity, Hashem Tzilcha, he's our shadow, Hashem lets things happen. Now, and that's it. Therefore, we should be broken when we hear this. When there's an Oisvav Hertzfeld who has an official OU synagogue that he likes to, in his fanciful way, he calls it the National Synagogue or something like that, to try to take off on the Gentile National Cathedral, you understand? And he says the worst kinds of claptrap and kfira. All of this stuff, when tens of graduates of Avi Weiss's Treif in the Chovei Torah Smicha program has situated and placed rabbis and rabbas, lady rabbis, in synagogues, in modern Orthodox synagogues throughout the country. And Olam Kamin Hagay Nohug, and aside from an occasional article by 2 or 3 people, or we have Aaron Feldman or Shishiva Baltimore, or in Mrs. Myman in for a while in the Ated, we don't hear a thing. We basically don't hear a thing. Now, there's a fraternal relationship between the OU and Agudas Yisrael. But how could Agudas Yisrael come to the OU and say, you have constituent synagogues that are led by these apikarsim, by this minim, by these oivim, by these zaydim? How could the Agudas Yisrael called the kettle black. Said, I'll say to you, the Agudas Yisrael, 1 second. A number of years ago, the Mushcheses, Christina Quinn, who was the president of the city council and decided to run for mayor after Bloomberg's term, and was defeated by de Blasio. But there was a fundraiser. There was a fundraiser in the house of a frum singer in Flatbush. Nice guy. He was actually once a Talmud of mine in 5th grade English back in the day in Tarvadas. But he was told, so it's become a mitzvah, good it tells you, and they made a fundraiser and raised $60,000 from a handful of Fruma Yidden for a person, a Mushcheses, who had a partner, and she was running for mayor of New York. And this was too much for even the tawdry New York Post. So they put a full article by then David Seifman, the City Hall editor, on page 2 in the Sunday edition that must have had 700,000 readers, a full-page expose. And he writes, I thought Agudas Yisrael was standing against this immorality. Then he says, oh, I saw that Christine Quinn, I went through the budget with a fine-tooth comb, and I see they got money. Oh, jetzt verstehen. Chilul Hashem ein v'neira. I want to ask a humble question. Does the Chilul Hashem stop at the doorstep of the Aguda functionaries, the level? I'm not saying it was these people in this particular event. The Chatzkel Bennett, Josh Mailman, Leon Goldenberg, community matters. Does it stop at that level? Does it extend to Rabbi David Zweibel, my friend, Rabbi Executive Director, who I went to yeshiva with, Abinon Shel Kedoshim, of the Ujra of a Rebbe, your grandson, Rev Leibish Becker? Does it stop with them? Or do we taught that Agudas Yisrael's run by Das Torah and the taciturnity, the deafening silence, tantamount to acquiescence? So, you know, I don't have to say anymore. So it's a terrible kitrug. And it leads to all kinds of stuff. It leads to a snowball effect. So how could Agudas Yisrael come to the OU from a standpoint of moral superiority and say, what is this that you have now OU synagogues that have rabbis, lady rabbis, totally unsneistic, totally shalek halacha, and that you have other people who have apikursistic views from Chovevei Torah teachers that not all Torah is Mina Shamayim, and all kinds of Chazarai and Dreidel, besides for their support of Mishkav Zohar and everything. How do you have this? So, Agudas totally quiet. They're busy fraternizing with them. We got to fight for tuition tax credits. We got to fight for this and that. Parenthetically, somebody asked me, and I don't know the answer. OU, the great kashrus organization, when Aguda, in desperation, when Aguda and some Hasidic groups, and this group Pearls, was fighting, did you hear high profile? Maybe OU is part of Pearls. Maybe Pearls comes from OU. I don't know. I doubt it. I don't know exactly. Maybe they're a constituent member. But did you hear a full court press from OU even fighting about this? Let me explain to you. The OU people are tittering because 90% of the OU constituency member synagogues are modern Orthodox. And even if they have a Baltimore Talmud or somewhat of a yeshiva man, I would say that to a certain extent that everybody is tittering for his job. And therefore, they make breaches that continue on and on. Which brings me, I'm not going in any order, let's speak about something else. There was a person, he might have even been, he's now in his 80s, he might have been a Baal Tshuva when he started out, and he obviously had a tremendous head and charismatic, and his name is Eliezer Berland. And he started an aggressive organization many, many years ago called Shuva Banim, and it was always beclouded for tens of years with the kinds of people, Grabianis to a certain extent, that would become his followers, Balei Tshuva, etc., but rough and tough chevra. There was talk for years, I remember, that he had certain shaykhs with Pashat, the underworld gangsters of Israel, But this is the way it would go. Now, on the other hand, I could say Adis, that when I first became aware of him, way back, I don't know, it was 2007, 2009, the year of the Lebanon crisis, I can tell you that there were Ureim V'Shleimim, younger light, who held from him Olam Umaloya, Choshev, younger light. And I'll tell you a story. And these people were Nizar and Kala Kitabura, they were Mamish Halavai would come to their toenails. I say Adis. One of these people, a very innocent, fine person, because this is the koyach. The koyach is that there was a tremendous amount of musar, davening, chizuk, this, but at the same time, there was a rat gut in the core. So I'm telling you, what happened to me is, a friend of mine at the time was doing very well financially. And he was having certain difficulties. And this very chashuv younger man persuaded him, come to Rabbi Eliezer Berland, his blessings, his brachas bear tremendous fruit. When he says something, it's this and that. He was a true believer, a holy roller. And I accompanied my friend into the inner sanctum in the Meir Sharim area of this Berland. And he sat there. His shtick was, even at night, he would wear a talis. Everybody has their shtick. He would wear a talis. Okay? And he sat there, and I was sitting next to him, next to my friend, was sitting next to him at the head of the table. And he said, you want this and this to happen? And he takes a yellow sheet of paper, and he writes down, this and this will happen. He said, you want to make money? He says, how much do you want to make? I saw this. He writes down a number, 1, 7, and he starts putting zeros on top of it, like the guy's going to be a multimillionaire. And my friend was persuaded by this chassid of his, gave him a $10,000 check. I thought I was in Alice in Wonderland, La La Land. Of course, none of this stuff ever happened. But then he was accused, and he had to run away from Israel, of impropriety, of immoral actions with some of his Hasidistas, which later turned on him. And at the end, they finally tracked him down, and he had to come back. They got him back to Interpol or whatever. And he sat in jail for basically a very reduced sentence, and he had to plead guilty to something. And they continued to put out the propaganda. He only did it because of this and that. He only did it because of the greater good, to be able to lead his flock, etc., etc. Last week, the police at 5 o'clock in the morning came and arrested him, his wife, with a whole host, a whole raft of financial improprieties, including a bacher, a 17-year-old, who disappeared around 30 years ago. And there's an underswelling, we don't know if it's true, but there's an undercurrent, that the Berlin people had something to do with this. Ad kedei kach. All right? So you see the videos, it's all over the internet. As the police are taking him, his rough and tough guys who stayed with him, the more chashuv people who were not running, they left him. And the rabbis of Breslov came out and disassociated themselves with him. But still, he manages to make, it's unbelievable, the koich of the Sitra Acha, he manages to, now, listen carefully. So you see the video, and you hear this screaming and yelling, and people are throwing themselves in front of the car to try to block the police, and the police are using gas and stun guns or whatever they're using there. And of course, they take him away. Now, one video you hear screaming, Harav, Harogotam, Harav, Harogotam. This idiot, this Plutkup, is screaming that this Berland, who at one point was saying something about he knows when Mashiach is coming, all kinds of Mishigasim, that he should pronounce a curse and all the police should drop dead and he should walk out like, who knows, the Melech Mashiach, this is a sickness. Now, he came into court, and there's a video. And in the court, he hides his head in the talis, but his lawyer says that kach happened to him and he's not feeling well, this and that. So the judge says, tell him to take a Tic Tac or a Mento. Why? A Mento. That's the candy. Why? Because part of the charges against him is he would tell people who need chemotherapy desperately, give 10,000 shkolim, give this much money, $10,000, thousands of dollars, and don't take the medication. Here, take this candy, take this Tic Tac. I don't even know if they said it was a candy or not. It's blessed, and you'll have a refuah. And people died. And that's part of the reason they said, now, so here's the horrific part of this. Number one, the fact that a few hundred or more stupids could still support him and still throw fantastic amounts of money on him, defies belief and shows the koich of the Sitra. But the next step is like this. There is allegedly, they show on the internet, I don't know if it's true or not. I didn't see it with a letterhead. But they claim that these letters, handwritten letters, signed by very choshev rabbonim in Eretz Yisrael, saying that Harav HaChosid Berlin, Rav Eliezer Berlin, the place to deal with him is not in the place, the secular court system, etc., etc. How does it come from Sheishis Yemei Breishis that such a oisvar, novel, etc., that he should be able to, that he should get at this late stage this kind of a support system? And the answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is a pasuk in Bereshis when the brothers had to appear in front of Yosef and he took Shimon a prisoner, I think it was, and they were talking amongst themselves, and the Torah reports it for eternity to teach us a huge, valuable lesson. Avol Ashenim Anachnu. The brothers, the shiftei kah, mitosai shel Yaakov Shlema. We can't imagine the greatness of the shiftei kah. And one was turning to the other, and they were acknowledging the cause and effect. When we did the wrong thing, that set off all the things that are happening today. So who is responsible for the Berlins? To a certain extent, our misdeeds, our not speaking up. When it first started, when Berlin started to have his original stonewall, so to speak. And at this late stage, that rabbis, leading rabbis, could come out with letters at this late stage. Who knows if it's blackmail? Who knows what's going on? One of the videos going around shows him sitting fairly recently with his talis, and he's sitting next to a person who is identified as one of the leading Israeli mafioso in Israel. You see it in Stinger. And he's having people come over, gullible idiots, who that mafioso controls, who are coming and kissing the hand of Rabbi Berlin, one after the other, and he's saying, this one's giving 30,000 shekel. You're going to give 30,000 shekel, right? Dun, 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 you understand? And the next one, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Rabbi Sai, this is what's happening. Now I want to turn to the Daf Yomi. Again, you get more hashkafa here in 10 minutes than you'll get from a year worth of Agudah drushes, because you'll never hear them saying this. L'man Hashem, this is like the biggest secret. I'm trying to learn the Daf on a very preliminary, very super superficial level, but better than nothing. Hashem should give me koyach and Hashem should strengthen me. Two things in the Daf in the last few days chilled me. One is the explanation that is given, why should we have salt on the table by Hamaitzi? And the answer is because when one person washes and the next person washes, and they have to sit without talking, they can't speak Divrei Torah, and they're silent, and nothing is happening, because not everybody washed. We know the halacha, the balabais is supposed to wash last, so there'll be the least hefsek regarding the bracha. So everybody's sitting silently. They're sitting silently, so they're not doing anything in ruchnius. So it's a kitrug. It's a kitrug. It's a sakonis nefashis. You hear? So by putting the salt on the table, by having the salt, so then it's something ruchniistic, because the salt is called the bris melach. I'm not going to get into it, but you see how strong, how dangerous life is from this chazal. Let me give you an even more frightening chazal. The Gemara was talking about a certain, I can't remember if it's a Tana or an Amayr. Doesn't make a difference. And they brought out certain foods. And he was mechabed, one of the Talmidim went, and he was kavatz, he jumped and he made a bracha. And Lag, the other Talmud laughed at him, that this was the inappropriate bracha to make. So first the Rebbe, I don't know if it was Bar Kapora, I forget, says, I'm angry at you, the Talmud. How do you go and live and be mavayas someone? And then he turns to the first Talmud. He says, now I'm angry at you. Even if I'm not bigger chochem than you, or I'm not a bigger Talmud chochem, but I'm more zaken than you. I'm your Rebbe. I'm a zaken. Why didn't you ask me what bracha to make? What was your rush to jump and make the bracha? Now here's the chilling part. The Gemara says they both didn't live out the year. Rabbi say, I don't know about you, and I saw this bracha, at least temporarily, and that's why I'm saying it to you tonight. Ich hab gehabt dat zitter. Rebbeinu Shalom. Kol ha'amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu vatron. Yevater is chayav. B'shuga. Hashem judges us. He adjudicates us. He's haboiche ba'ama Yisrael b'ahava. And by the way, think about it. Each and every day, we introduce Shema, as I mentioned before, by speaking a whole paragraph at night and in the morning of the Abba Rabba Avtanu. He gives us Torah and mitzvahs. He picks us up. We commit, transgress, and trespass every day in all kinds of ways. He picks us up. He dusts us off. He gives us children and grandchildren, a parnasa, and then beautiful chandeliers and vacations and dos and yens. It's unbelievable. Ava Rabba, again and again. But we have to understand that at the end of the day, we're going to have to pay a piper. What did Rabbi say? I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get to the Purim Torah, which really bothers me because we have a guest coming on. I want to say like this: there's a podcast, a YouTube program that a lot of Orthodox people watch, even in Lakewood, certainly on the island, and etc. etc. Of people watch it, and it's ostensibly modern Orthodox, and it's about shidduchim and the trials and tribulations that people go through in shidduchim, and it's sponsored by various businesses. Each time another business, and they ask for tax deductible donations. So now they came out of the quote unquote closet. In one of the last episodes, they had an episode about a Mishkav Zachanik and looking for a Shidduch, a Mishkav Zachanik. So now, after we've sucked in the Jewish people, the frum people, the Orthodox people, this is kosher entertainment, now they put their tumah, etc. What's happening? Who's really saying or doing anything about it? Precious few people. It appears it's today's news, it's gone tomorrow. Why isn't the OU coming out and lambasting this? After all, there are OU synagogues, like in the West Side and other modern Orthodox synagogues, and on a Motzei Shabbos in the winter, they have a whole get-together where they premiere the new programs. They also have a whole cult following, so they show you things off, like besides the program, so you get to know the quote-unquote stars, where they're being over Negiah, and it's not a kosher thing at all. Rabbi said, this is a typical example. So first of all, we're calling on people to stop watching this garbage. And I wish I would know who to complain to. If it was up to me, I would have, if I could press a button, I would ask each and every person to call up the OU and ask to leave a message in Rabbi Herschel Schachter's, he's the top rabbi there, and to say, you're from YU, you deal with the modern Orthodox, you're from OU, how are you quiet there? How are you quiet? Okay, this is the same OU that we made a tumult. They used to give a hefsher on something called gay ice cream with a rainbow. Remember that one? It's unbelievable. Now, recently, I think this was recently. I'm not sure if I've got this correct. The head of the OU Kashrus, Menachem Gnack, surely a bright person, surely a big Yodea Sefer, but hashkafa-wise, he used to kiss up to Bill Clinton. He wrote a book, I think, and that's why Hillary once kissed him on the receiving line. It was Mida connected Mida that he had the embarrassment of Hillary hugging him and kissing him, whatever she did. He supported Joe Lieberman's run for president. He wrote Joe Lieberman is like a modern-day Mordechai. Joe Lieberman, who supported Mishkav Zachar in the army and the marriage and abortion on demand, I think even partial birth abortion. You understand? This is Genak who's giving the hechsher, okay? Recently, he wrote some kind of hakdama. Maybe it was on Professor Mark Shapiro, who wrote a book to try to say that the 13 principles of the Rambam are debatable. and that there are big poskim, Rishonim, etc., who disagreed with the 13 principles. In Dialogue, which is a kuntres of Torah thoughts that comes out, that's co-edited by Rabbi Shlomo Gottesman of the West Side of Talmud Chochem and the Rosh Yeshiva of Baltimore of Aaron Schechter. I understand that somebody put in an article there of over 30 pages to show the tremendously sloppy, untrue, sloppy, you can't call it scholarship, amiratzis of what Shapiro was doing. But I think, if I'm remembering correctly, the Genak wrote some kind of a hakdama to this. It's the Wild West and nobody says anything. And that's our problem. The city councilman of Crown Heights came up and introduced a resolution to the city council that in the public schools they should have a minute of silence. Meanwhile, he's supporting Gayas with Schmutz, with abortion, with Alsting, but he wants to leck up to the dummies in Crown Heights, who, if you're doing the Rebbe held from prayer in school, the Rebbe held from a minute of silence, so everything becomes bottle mevutl. There's no sense of weighing what's more important. So now he's positioning himself to get the support of the Lubavitch community because he's introducing a resolution. Whether it'll pass or not, I hardly doubt in the liberal thing it'll pass. But he could say, I did it. It's a wink, wink, blink, blink. It's tenacious. It's dirty. It's cow dung. Excuse my French. And the Chabadskis are busy stepping in it. You understand? The PR people, they're busy stepping in it. A tremendous cheshach here. What else do we have? In Yeshiva University, there was a vote in the last 2 weeks where the presidents of the student council absented themselves. They refused to vote in YU against having certain Mishkav Zachar clubs supported and financed by the school, etc. How about this one? Did you hear the YU Rosh Yeshiva saying anything about it? Even the quote-unquote right-wing ones? Do you hear anything? A park in Williamsburg, listen to what the Manuvel does. A park in Williamsburg was named recently by Governor Cuomo after an LGBTQRSTUV activist. Cuomo is pushing, at the same time, he's speaking, when he speaks about that, he's pushing easier surrogacy laws and adoption by homosexuals, and that they should be able to use surrogates legally to father, to mother a child, etc., etc. Again, the hashkafa. Why, of all the parks in the entire state, does Cuomo have to do in the park where there'll be a plaque and there'll be a sign for the lesbian, the oisvarfika, you understand, in that park? Because Cuomo is giving us the back of his hand. The same way at the State of the State speech, he trots out Rabbi Rottenberg, because how could Rottenberg refuse the covet of giving a prayer, an opening prayer, just 2 or 3 days or a week or whatever it was after the tremendous tragedy that Rabbi Neumann should have a refuah shalema. But you understand what Cuomo was doing. He's doing the same thing that the other politician, city councilman did to the Lubavitchers. And nobody says a word, ain't pesayach peh u'mitzavsef. Sunday, February 23rd, in YU, there's going to be a symposium called Who Should Live, Who Should Die? The vaunted Rabbi Moshe Pendler, a senior expert in these kinds of inyanim, even if controversial, is speaking there with several doctors. You know who else is speaking there? Gary, the Oisvav Sher from Passaic, New Jersey, who admitted in the Sukkot edition of Mishpacha that he acceded to the request of the sponsor of assisted suicide bill, and although he voted against it because he knew his bread is buttered, the Fruma wouldn't stand for this. It's enough that he votes for all the abortion, all the Mishkav Zachar stuff, but he did them a favor and he didn't speak against it, and it passed by 1 vote. And he's a deputy leader in the state senate. He could have stopped it. The assisted suicide and the Chazarai, and this needs to the last step of salami, will be on the cheshbon of Gary Shah. I wouldn't want to be him. It's for him, I'm telling you. Now, he's the one who's going to speak about who should live and who should die, and what his sage wisdom, what he's going to share with people. There should be protests out there. Rabbi Tendler should be called and said, how you talking that you're participating with such an oisvaf? So the only person who has to do anything is Yehuda Levin. Okay. Moira Baisai. Moira Baisai. The CDC is virtually broke. That's what we hear. They don't have the money. And I heard a program recently on National Public Radio that 90% or a fortune of the percent of vaccines are made in China. Now, if this thing continues, there's a Gavir, a Chinese Gavir who went on, and he's all over the internet, who says that the Chinese are hiding the true amount. They just recently upped it by another 15,000. There's tens of thousands of people who have the virus, okay? And they say that they have crematoria, and they say that the hospitals that they built in Wulang or whatever it is are being used to burn the bodies, etc. And you see different pictures. In some, you see the police brutally schlepping away people, etc., etc. They have a massive plague. There are those who say they have the plague because what do you call it? They have the plague because they eat shrotzim, even menachai, whatever it is, etc., etc. Whatever the cheshbonis v'HaKadosh Baruch Hu are. But the point is, it could reach a stage where we're not going to forget about all the money that Yidden are losing now, who have their businesses in China. There are Jews, and they can't go there. They can't do it. I'm sure there's being losses right now as you talk. But imagine what's going to happen. The United States can't possibly, the way according to NPR report, liberals gear up to replace all the vaccines that are produced in China. This could be a very dangerous situation. Okay? Think about it. Think about what this means. So what's the connection between Corona and this program? Everything happens because of Klal Yisrael. A perversion by us, or turning the other cheek or the other way to perversion, leads to a perversion of viruses or terrible things that jump from animal kingdom to men. And Hashem keeps on sending us messages. The West Nile virus, and then there was SARS. Corona has already far surpassed the whole Tzitternish of SARS. What is Hashem showing us? Again, if we go with the Hashkafa here that you won't hear anybody anywhere else, will you hear a Rav, Rosh Hashiva, or Rebbe standing up and saying that this is causing the that our tolerating perversion is causing all kinds of chazarai? No, you won't hear it. You won't hear it, Rabbi Say. Okay, but there's a midah keneged midah here. This has to do with us. This has to do with us. So we're expecting a call any minute from our. You can call this guy and hook him in, okay? I don't know if he hasn't called. Just call that number. We're expecting a call any minute from our guest for the final part of the program. I don't know if he'll come or not. If not, we'll. Now we have this other situation. Reb Chaim Deutsch is running for Congress. I like Reb Chaim Deutsch. I love him. I know him for years. I davened with him in the same shul. He's a Baal Chesed. He's a Zizkeit. He's a Gutzkeit. And he's also can show you that he is blasted by the Gay City News, who has articles now, again, exposés of how he didn't do this for the Mishkav Zach, and he didn't do that, he didn't do the other thing. And he asks one of the Choshev Rabbanim, a right-wing Rabbanim, in Brooklyn. He claims that he asks them before he votes. But we have him voting and doing certain things. I told you, he voted in the past once to fund people that should be test people. They should come and try to rent your apartment, and they should indicate that they're Mishkav Zoch or this and that. And then when you don't rent to them, he's funded the Human Rights Commission so they can make people tsaras. I think he told me that was a mistake, and that was a number of years ago. Then he voted to fight hate. How are we going to fight hate? By teaching the children a curriculum that they shouldn't hate. So you have to know the hashkafa. I would love that he should ask of Elia Brudny. I'd love that he should ask of Leza Ginsburg. And if they tell him he can do that, or others, if they say you can do this, you can make a trade-off. Get this. We'll have a program that will brainwash all the kids, that will equate bedroom misbehavior with a person's pigmentation or religiosity. And that's the way we'll stop the hate. Why are we having problems with anti-Semitism? It's stamazoi. Yes, you have to make a histablis, but a histablis that on its very essence equates a people's antipathy to Mishkav Zohar with their antipathy of pigmentation or religiosity or religion. Okay, and there are others. There are other bills. I just saw Reb Chaim tonight. I hope everybody will go out, register. This is the last day to register as Democrats. I agree totally. And I hope that Reb Chaim will make a solid commitment. Not Chaim. Chaim, listen to me. Not like Simcha Eichenstein. Not like, okay, he's going to be on in a second. Not like Simcha Eichenstein. Simcha Eichenstein just voted. There were 9 bills. He just voted for some kind of a transgender chazarai. Simcha Eichenstein is worse and worse. He's voted for way over 10, probably close to 20 or more bills of hashchosa and garbage. I'm telling you. So why shouldn't we be afraid with Chaim Deutsch? We want him to win. We want him to win. But there's got to be assurances. There's got to be clear assurances. And that's what we have to daven to Hashem. We have to daven to Hashem that he should win if he can remain with fealty. Total fealty. No mistakes. No Eichensteins. No garbage. By the way, just that you should know about Trump. Recently, Trump said, I don't mind if on the stage the Mishkav Zohar guy mayor of Indianapolis, Mayor Pete Buttigieg, will come on with his quote-unquote husband, Afro Lapume's husband. I don't mind. So he was throwing a sop to Buttigieg. Why? Because the same reason that Trump marches with the rainbow flags into his rallies, and he says that this is settled law. And there are things at the time in 2016. There were Mishkav Zohar activists who said that Trump would be the best of the Republicans for them. You understand? So let's not get carried away. Buttigieg says, what have you done for me today? Don't give me your stuffs, but you haven't done X, you haven't done Y, you haven't done Z. But Yashakar to Buttigieg because he's exposing what Trump is. Am I saying not to vote for Trump? First of all, in New York, it's not going to make a difference, you understand? But I might want Trump to win. But I'm not going to proactively play God to lift my hand to vote for a guy who stands for Schmutz. Reb Nassim, are you there? I don't hear him. I don't hear him. Reb Nassim?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Oh, now we hear you clearly. Shalom Aleichem. Okay, we're a little late. I don't know if I gave you the wrong number or what happened, but I was.
No, I called, but it didn't. I don't know. Somebody said it didn't go through.
Okay, I don't know why, but anyhow, that's why I stepped away from the microphone. Very highly professional radio, and I walked into the other room, left everybody in suspense, and I asked the guy to call you. Okay, so in the final 10 minutes or so of the program, let's try to pack in as much information as possible, but succinctly, truncated, brevity, and the oilim here will chap. So what's the latest with Gius Banas?
Okay. The Israelis are upping the ante, as represented by the case of the girl Lital Bas Miriam, who, as was reported in the Jewish press about 5 weeks ago, was arrested at the airport after having been told by border police that it's okay to travel. She was arrested because she had gotten her religious documentation about 9 years ago, and they required her to go to a religious test, which they did not accept because of some nonsensical reasons. They asked a question pertaining to Chris Torah, which she was under no halachic obligation to be able to answer. And
how many Reb Nassim? Okay, Reb Nassim. Again, we can't follow too many facts. Right, the kids are now. How many young women are right now in the system in prisons? Approximately right now.
Approximately 55 to 60.
55 to 60.
55 to 60. Many of them are maybe not fully Shomer Shabbos, but they're traditional and in jail when they don't have distractions. Many of these people are Ma'aminim, and even if they're not Shomer Shabbos outside jail.
Right, this is an outrage. Exactly. A woman, in other words, there's a tarti desasri, a tremendous contradiction. When it comes to abortion, the Israelis say, and you published an article. You didn't publish it. You referred to an article in Left-Wing Haaretz that explained that today with abortions, if a woman is between what is it, 18 and 40?
I forget the details, but okay.
But anyhow, it's very easy for them to go in front of committees and get a heter
Right.
for abortion. And there are up to, according to some estimates, there are tens of thousands of abortions committed by the same doctors that deliver babies. Why? Because the old liberal shibboleth, a woman has the right to control her own body. But when you
Right.
put her into the army, where you have quotes from army people who have said that they're mattresses, in other
Right.
words, they're
Right.
creatures.
Sorry.
And not only that, but they officially give them 2 or 3 abortions on the house, which they know.
That's up to 4 now, but okay.
It's up to 4. And what about the articles that you published? A few articles that you did, you reprinted, I should say. You linked to articles in major outlets that there is an ever-rising extent of violating women and women coming forward. Why should anybody, even not a mammon, be forced to be in such a situation? So now let's move forward. Is there any progress with Yated Hamodia Gedolei Yisrael? Is there anything happening that this is getting more mainstreamed than, say, a few months ago when it was being largely ignored?
It's a hard question to answer. As far as Yated and Hamodia, no progress that I know of, and that's one of the things I want to give out numbers. 2 papers that I think.
So let me just ask people. Let me just ask people to please take a pen and paper, and in 3 or 4 minutes, towards the end of the program, we're going to give out the telephone numbers.
We can do it twice if you want. We can give it now and then.
I don't think anybody will have a pen and paper right now. So let's just go. So there's the Yated and Hamodia. What else do you think that people can do? Who else could they be calling? They should be calling Agudas Yisrael, no?
Yes, they should be calling the organizations, but I think more important is to call people that will actually do something. Meaning, let's take FKJ General Peloton, to call these people in a more kosher way, a more respectful way, because those people might actually be responsive. People like Medea, they should be called somewhat politely, obviously, but more firmly. I would not even waste time on Ami or the
Mishpacha.
Because whatever they would do, they would be counterproductive. I mean,
I see.
Ami just had an article about Mazeda, and they botched it. They agendized it, weaponized it for their own agenda. So,
all right, let's move on. Besides for Diaz Banas, what other?
There's a couple important, and then Diaz Banas, I don't have anything to say about because I.
No, so what else do you want to inform us about? That's what I'm saying.
On Diaz Banas, I want to tell you that there's a total, I would say, a sea change. We have a girl sitting in jail for a month that's facing not 2 months in jail, but 2 years in military jail. And the only way for her to get out of it is to compromise, is to a plea deal where she gives up her rights to fight for her rights, for her legal rights, and takes 6 months in military jail. And this was not even a girl who fled the army. This is a girl who never was in the army. It was a religious who, like I was explaining to her, failed her Fort Ryan Dots. And this is totally, to my knowledge, unprecedented, at least in recent history. It's a signal to us that the Israelis are taking a carbon, making a test case, a sacrificial lamb, and if we don't respond accordingly, we may be dealing with a totally different dimension of Diaz Banas. There's other major developments that people should be aware of in Diaz Banas. One is that with the same time that they were making it very hard to get religious exemptions, they were recently making it very easy to get psychological exemptions. And that's all been they're changing now. It was a bait and switch from the beginning. They announced, the military announced, and it was actually through a military report of Ma'ariv a couple of months ago, that they noticed a tremendous increase in from applications for a psychological exemption, and they're going to be investigating to see if there's any hanky-panky, which of course they know that there is, and they encourage it themselves, and they wanted it. This is so that they could retroactively now go back and start proffering exemptions that were already given, like they at one point did in the past many years ago with the boys. So this is entering a very dangerous period, and the only reason they're able to get away with this is because the Israeli government knows they have a few corrupt people, or more than that, in the right places in the front world to keep everything quiet. So we have to understand that what we're dealing with, but we can work around that. If we get a demonstration of ladies at Israeli events in America, it doesn't even have to be purely Jewish ladies. We can get together with other feminists or other types of ladies effect without doing that. It's something that the government and when he hears it decades ago, down to the Nation, but for us, it's something that we need to revisit seriously in our days. I also consider the possibility of a boycott against El Al, which should be boycotted probably anyway for other reasons, pizzas included, but it's serving that up for thought, for consideration for the esteemed Tzibur, that someone would like to help organize a boycott against El Al, since oftentimes choices that people have. And for airlines, I think it's not imposing too much on the Tzibur to ask people that whenever possible they choose a different airline. And I think that if that's something that would be organized, that could have a serious financial impact on Israel, and that's the only thing the Israeli government understands is force. And I think that here it would not be like with other boycotts, you have innocent people being victimized. Here, I don't think you would have that problem. And I think this could have an impact perhaps on policy. Individual Knesset members, individual politicians here in America need to be appraised of the facts. But to do that, people have to get informed of what's really going on. And they can contact us if they'd like to get seriously intelligent and involved in doing that.
All right, listen, we're in the last 2 minutes, so now you have to give phone numbers for the few people who might be serious enough that they want to make the Kiddush Hashem and protect their children and grandchildren, whether they're in America or here or there, whatever. So who should, first of all, is there a hotline number to call for updated information?
There are a couple of hotlines, yeah. I mean, if someone would like that type of thing, you can contact us directly, 845-642-1679.
845-642-1679. Okay, what else?
Help us for children. And this was a request that Media covers these issues. They talk a lot about the Holocaust. They're making a big tumble about the Holocaust.
Right, but this is a modern day Holocaust.
Exactly nothing. To my knowledge. 718-853-9094, 718-853-9094.
They should ask to speak to the voicemail of Mrs. Ruth Lichtenstein, the publisher.
Yes, she's the one
Who else?
A big tumble about the Holocaust here.
Right.
Let her stay too. Okay.
Who else?
JJ Journal.
Flatbush Jewish Journal.
Flatbush Jewish Journal. They may be receptive. I think one should be more polite in that case, because we might actually get them to do something productively. 718-692-1144, 718-692.
People, they write a phenomenal amount of letters to the editor that appear. If people write a letter to the editor of Flatbush Journal, informing what's happening with Yisro and asking them to do full in-depth coverage, and they get 5 letters like this, it's very likely that they'll do something.
Right. And to get that information, you can call or text another number I gave, and we can send you some sample letters and sample information with which you can use to write your own letters. But with the coronavirus going around, the corona stands for Ketzer. The virus looks like a Ketzer, looks like a crown. One lesson of many that we can derive perhaps from this is that Hashem wants to remind us of who is king. And we have to realize that Hashem will not tolerate the victimization of innocent girls just sacrificing everything in Israeli prisons to keep the purity in the religion if we are silent. That there is hell to pay for those that can act and fail to do so.
Rabbi Leiter, is there anything else in the final? Okay, Rabbi Leiter, I want to thank you very much. We finished for now, but we'll have you on again. And I apologize for not getting to the Purim Torah. We'll do it next week. This is Yehuda Levin. Have a good week, and let's do something for Kvod Shamayim.
Thank you.
Jersey City. Hey, Tri-State, have you ever thought about being your own radio show host? Do you have a story to tell or a product to sell? Give 620 WSNR a call at 516-431-6662 and learn how your voice can reach over 16 million people. If you have the desire, we have your opportunity. Call us at 516-431-6662 and find out about our available times and generous rates.